segment the first, I believe that Puck is going to take us in. Puck, what do you got for us?
I do, and you know me. Whenever I come on here, I don't want to just pick on something to shake a fist at or to poop on, but I want something it's something that feels like
Mm.
a reasonable step in the
Ever-
right direction. But on this one, I do have to scratch my head a little bit. So here
Okay.
we have an article. The article headline is Archbishop of Canterbury criticizes Ghana anti-LGBT bill. And just reading very quickly from the article, the bill supported by the Anglican Church of Ghana, despite a previous agreement by Anglican churches not to support discrimination legislation. Rights groups say that the bill is the worst homophobic document ever. All right. So the bill is looking to increase jail time to up to a decade and to force conversion therapy. And it's also making some things like cross-dressing and public displays of same-sex affection punishable by fines or detention. This is really bad. And so now we have the Archbishop of Canterbury who's saying, hey, not good. Not good. You gotta do something. It's always interesting to me when a religious leader speaks up against something like this. On one hand, I want to say, yeah, thank you, congratulations. And on the other hand, I'm also like, wait a second, is it too little too late? Does it make up
Yeah.
for all the other times? I don't know. I'm on the fence, and that's why I like bringing articles like this up to consideration.
Not only too little too late. For me, they are responsible for this. I would like to quote Darrell Ray and his book, The God Virus, when he talks about how religion creates a problem and then it gives you the solution to this problem, because all this idea of punishing gay sex it was brought by the West to the African nations. I had to search a little bit about how things were before Christianity. And you know what? In the Yoruba language from where is Yoruba? I think it's Nigeria. In Nigeria, there is a term called Yandanduru, which is a term that describes effeminate men who are considered to be wives to men. And this term is as old as culture itself. This shows that before Christianity arrived over there, homosexuality was regular in African culture, at least in Nigeria. And I should have searched where else, because I only have that one. I think that Yoruba is from another country. Sorry about that, guys. But it was normal, it was regular. And then religion arrived and they said, no, this is bad, this is evil. And now they are saying, because over there, gay sex is already punishable with up to 3 years in jail. And now they are saying, oh, guys, those rules that we brought to us apparently are not as good as we thought, or don't follow our rules so strictly. It's terrible. They create the problem, and now they are criticizing the result of what they do. So I cannot applaud them. It's like, use common sense, dude.
And this is, I share the conflicting feelings that Puck has with this, because part of me says, awesome. This is a moment for us as atheists, for us as humanists, for us as the non-religious to be able to cross that divide and reach out to those that are religious and say, let's work together for a common goal. But then the other part of me remembers that it's the church in Ghana. It's the local Anglican church that is pushing for this. And it's like, you know what? Say it with your big boy voice. You want to be homophobic? You want to say that's part of your religion? Just stand up and say it already, so that everybody else around you, Christian, atheist, Muslim, that doesn't agree with that, we can just all stand together and fight back against this. Because it's just ridiculous that we still have to have this discussion day in and day out, it seems, worldwide.
Yeah, it never seems to end. And since Mateo brought it up, Dr. Darrell Ray's book, The God Virus, I'm just going to flex on you all a little bit with my signed personalized copy from Dr. Darrell Ray just before I go on. But it's like, I'm thoroughly unimpressed by this. you know, it's like, well, never mind the global rape cabal and forget about thousands of children murdered in residential schools or opposition to women's health care worldwide. Here's one guy named Justin who's decided to join the late 20th century. Please clap for us. It's like no one cares, Mr. Arch Fish Face of Crapulary. Like way to go. Like you've finally been dragged into the modern era. He says he's gravely concerned, but I think he's about as gravely concerned as Catholics are deeply sorry. I'm not buying it.
I think he's gravely concerned about the number of people in the pews. I think the more that the radical individuals in any sect of any religious belief are yelling, the more that the people that don't agree with that, the people that are rational adults that say this isn't something for me to get all hot about and upset about, like those people, they slowly start moving further and further away. I mean, right? We've all heard that. The quickest way to make an atheist is to have them read the Bible. I mean, that's true for every religion, because when you look at so many of these religions, when you look at their teachings, they are homophobic. They are against trans people. And it's great that more and more people like the Archbishop of Canterbury are saying, hey, that doesn't describe me. That's not how I practice my faith. My God doesn't care about. That's awesome. But there are still a large group of people trying to pull us back and trying to pull us into that Dark Ages time. So I'm happy, but like I said, like Puck, I'm also kind of like,
I'm not happy about it. I think that this is just propaganda. I feel this is the same that when in Pride Month, all companies start selling things with rainbows and cities are painted with rainbows. And as soon as Pride Month is over, they go and paint everything white or whatever again. And they totally forget about Pride and all of that. It's just
That's a good point.
Yeah, for me, it's just a way to bring more people, because actually I have one article that you could find about how religious groups are saying, no, now we are, through religion, we're helping LGBT people. And guys, it's religion, the thing that is harming them. So for me, this is just more propaganda and more way to bring people to their side. And as you have stated, guys, saying, no, we're not like those radicals. Of course not. We are Christians who believe in LGBT, and we don't follow Leviticus, apparently.
Yeah, so no, we're cool, bro. We're cool. I don't know if you
I
guys have
wanted to
seen that
tack on
meme.
Teo, what you said about how the indigenous culture already had, homosexuality was fine. They didn't have a problem with it. I grew up in a culture where some people would even consider it a third gender, where I grew up in. So the Philippine culture, totally fine with that. And again, then the Spaniards came and ruined everything. So it's not just like this particular chunk of the world where this happens. This is a global phenomenon. It does make me wonder, though. It's like, as much as we say, either too little, too late, or you're the ones who caused this problem in the first place. Is there clearly this is something better than what they could have done? So how is it? I remember this one story about how, like, if someone finally starts to cooperate with the family, like they have a bad day and they were in their room the whole morning, finally they decide to join for dinner, the worst thing you can do is give them a sarcastic response like, oh, finally you decide to join us, right? Because that just it just reinforces the negative stereotype and makes them feel bad about making an effort. So is there something that we should do to say, yeah, I get it, you're taking a stride and you're making a step in the right direction, but it's a step and it's not enough?
I already slow clapped, and as a gay man, I feel like that's about all that the Anglican Church, a church started by a fat king who wanted to marry his brother's wife, couldn't get a divorce, well, Lottie freaking da, Mr. Bastion of moral integrity. I am thoroughly unimpressed.
You know what?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I will look from the distance until they start actually doing stuff and not just saying, hey, don't do this, because they have power. They could go there and do something instead of just saying saying publicly, no, we don't agree with that, and then do nothing. That's a
That's
red flag for me, guys.
That's what I was saying. It's like they're always, thoughts and prayers, deeply sorry, we so regret it, blah blah blah. But we're gonna sit on $7 billion and not actually do anything to help people.
Mhm.
We're just gonna say some words to make it's virtue signaling. That's all it is.
Yeah, and I think
Yep.
this is we take the opportunity to say, hey, we're glad you joined us for dinner. But also, I just want to remind you about the dishes afterwards that you agreed to. I just want to remind you about all the other things, like the week's worth of dishes you haven't been doing. But yeah, I mean, we applaud the step that is in a positive direction, but we go ahead and don't forget that there's still a hell of a lot of people way far back. They have a lot of
Oh, yeah.
steps to go. And hurry up already. Like, get to walking,
So now, what do you think about this next part here that says, and I did not dig too deep into this, I'm just going by the article, that says that 93% of Ghanaians actually support the position. So they are making laws only to reflect what the people seem to want.
Yes. I mean,
what's the take on that?
That's a lot of times, I think, one of the problems with oftentimes in a political science space, you're going to hear people say that laws are downstream of culture, right? It's not that the law is going to ultimately dictate the culture, but that the exact opposite, the way that people feel and how they live their lives is ultimately going to translate into what we consider legal and illegal a lot of times. And this is why it is so freaking important day in and day out for everybody that is able to, everybody that is safe to say, hey, I don't believe this crap. I don't know. I don't live my life in that manner from that book about that guy in the clouds. We need to keep pushing back because there are still large pockets of this world, apparently 93% of Ghana, that says, oh no, this is right because my God told me. And yeah, it doesn't matter whether you live in Africa, doesn't matter whether you're in Australia, Asia, Europe, it just doesn't matter. Humans are humans, and you shouldn't be tortured, because that's what conversion therapy is. You shouldn't be tortured because you love somebody of the same gender. You shouldn't. Am I crazy here? Did I miss something? Right? Did I?
I don't think you're crazy.
Okay.
You're crazy. No, I think you're on point.
Kind of common sense.
So the nonprofit in me was like, okay, so this homophobic bigot who almost certainly has a Grindr account with no profile pic, for the record. But I'm like, okay, so this guy says that 93% of Ghanaians are for this bill. So I'm like, okay, well, let's do some digging. And I tried to find contrary evidence, as one does as a skeptic. I tried to sort of falsify beliefs and sort of see both sides of the picture. And I got to say, the only thing that I could find that offered a more even-handed approach was a 2014 study that showed that 90% of Ghanaians favored criminalization of same-sex relationships. So,
Yeah, so that's not great.
It's not good.
In a country where 72% of people are Christian and 18% belong to Islam, it's not surprised that they think like that and that they are going to follow what the leaders are saying. And the leaders, they need enemies, and they find enemies in LGBT people, so TQ+. So yeah, sorry, call me obsessive if you want, but I call this one of the so many harms of religion right there.
Yeah.
My side interest to this, though, is that whenever we point out that a leader might be speaking in opposition to what their congregation says, and not too long ago there was a very big split in the Methodist Church where the church now has decided, okay, well, we want to be able to conduct gay marriages and do anything they want to. We'll do that here. There's a good chunk of that congregation who's not very happy with that. Right. And so far there's not been any major split, but the stuff like this is always on my radar because this is how new denominations form. This is how splinter groups form.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
there is a small tendency, at least in the beginning of the splintering of a new group, for them to like slide to the slightly extreme end of a belief just for a little while, just to really cement in the fact that they're different from the main group, right? So that's that. My antenna is up, and of course we're not going to know for about another year or two, but it's stuff like this that starts to make a divide.
Oh, and that
Yeah.
makes radicalized groups even more radicalized and more dangerous, sadly.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. So, final thoughts. Are we impressed by Archbishop Justin of Fiddle Faddle, or whatever his made up title is?
I keep feeling it's just propaganda, so I'm not going to believe it for now until I see some action.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great stance, honestly, to take. It's like, appreciate it, bro, but also, you know, we'll see.
I want to be. I'm like the most Pollyanna of all the people who's ever had a seat on the nonprofits. I want to take every step in the right direction and just magnify it and say thank you. Yes, it might seem like too little too late. And there are some people who are definitely going to say that. And for a lot of people, we can all clearly agree, this is enough. If they stopped here, this isn't enough, right?
Yeah.
But to go out and say, yeah, we support you. And you know what? In this fight right now, we're fighting together. I will hold your hand to fight this fight with you. Okay, after we're done with this particular ballot measure, okay, I'm going to let go of your hand. We're going to talk about all the crazy stuff that you did in the past and are still doing to make problems like this continue. But for right now, I will fight with you against this bill, and I'm happy to fight with you. And that's what I put in the notes is that, sometimes we in the atheist community will take anybody who identifies as a theist and automatically assume they're the bad guy. That's not true. There are a lot of theists who, like, if the mission of the ACA is to support the separation of religion and government, there's plenty of theists who are all for that also, and I will absolutely work with them toward those goals.
Yep.
Yeah, I
So,
remember.
we'll work with you. Thank you. And then immediately after the vote, we're going to drop hands and we're going to talk about some other really problematic things that are still going on.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't know, since this show is recorded on Wednesdays, but of probably my oldest friend, who I've known for 30 plus years, who's a youth pastor, who I talk to fairly regularly, said he was going to call in to talk heathen. So these conversations are important. They can happen. They just require both parties to be honest and have some form of goodwill. I'm just skeptical of the amount of goodwill that the Anglican Church has. Excuse me. Mateo,
I'm
final
with you.
thoughts?
No, I'm with you with that. And yeah, as Spock said, I do remember when the ACA was working with certain churches in order to work in the separation of church and state. So yeah, Spock is right in that. I'm just still a little bit skeptical and looking from far away just to see if they do something or not.
Sure. Well, I think this will be an interesting topic to watch develop. I don't know if we're going to see any major change in Ghanaian culture, but I mean, if it's a microcosm of a change in the sort of Anglican zeitgeist, I'm for it. I'm skeptical, but I'm for it. Yeah, it's something. They threw me a freaking bone here, and I am grateful.
Yeah, the
Anyways,
it's something to keep our eyes on, right? Knowing that
yes.
there's still a lot of Anglican influence there. Let's put a pin on this and say nothing's settled yet. We'll see what happens in the next few months and coming years.